President's deadline for that ultimatum to Iran about the Strait of Hormuz. To get into that Truth Social post, the president wrote, if Iran doesn't fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time, the United States of America will hit and obliterate their various power plants, starting with the biggest one first.
Donald Trump originally stated that the war would run between 4 to 5 weeks. We're now getting into the 4th week of hostilities. Things are not easing. Joining us live this morning is political analyst Joe Siracusa. In your view, Joe, how long to go on this thing and how much worse could things slide across the Middle East?
Good morning, Pete. Well, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. President Trump has promised to rain down hell on Iran. That's what he intends to do. And the Iranians, of course, this is their last card. I mean, they can't lose a major war and survive. I mean, they're playing for everything. And Pete, can you imagine right now if the Iranian regime had a nuclear weapon? They'd be using it all over the place. I mean, this is really proof they don't really care. Yes, Trump is going to take out the electricity, which is, can't flush the toilets, can't use the elevator, hospitals will close down. I mean, it's a catastrophe. But I'm sure Trump's inner circle and the Israeli inner circle have come to the conclusion that whatever happens in Iran is a lot less than what could happen if the Iranians are allowed to go on. Now, what bothers me is I think the intelligence community has let our side down a little bit. I mean, the idea that they actually have an intercontinental ballistic missile, medium-range missile, that can reach Diego Garcia, which is 4,000 kilometers away, is news to me because, all the capitals of Europe are now open. And
so that's what would be next. More European capitals, Joe.
Oh, yeah, these guys, they're not fooling around. This is it's not like some bad movie somewhere. President Trump has rolled the dice on this, and you need diplomacy to close out a war, and there's no diplomacy in sight. So this war is just going to take up the oxygen in the room and burn itself out. And I'm afraid the Iranians they're gonna lose this thing in the short term. And the West is going to be very uncomfortable in the long term.
And we'll get to that in a moment because I want to bring up that point you bring up. So I'm being told two things just from people I'm interviewing on this program. So you got former CIA officials who've said Iran is losing this and they don't have much left. So what you're seeing now is the final sputterings of a former machine. I'm also being told that Iran is actually winning and has been underestimated. It doesn't care who it hits next. It could next attack very important desalination plants of its Gulf neighbours. I don't doubt it would try and do that. And then launch more missiles at areas such as Diego Garcia. So which one is right?
Well, the Iranians are losing. The people who say that the Iranians are winning are suggesting that as long as they don't actually lose the war, they survive, they win in the long term, the way North Vietnam did in the 1960s and early 1970s. Well, look, that's cold comfort to a lot of other people. I mean, the Iranians are losing this. They do have a lot of residual strength They have no hesitation. And look, there's no one who's going to surrender in Tehran. This reminds me of Jimmy Carter trying to get someone to talk to. He couldn't talk to anybody about how to avert possible conflict there. So, we just kind of lumbered on until we found something. But look, the United States will always use its superior force as the great equalizer. They are not going to risk, 100,000 men on some shore beyond the Gulf. I mean, one really good general suggested you got to secure that Strait of Hormuz 50 miles on each side of the strait. You need 100,000 people, and you got to keep them 100 miles from shore. That is the Iranians. It's not going to work. Now, look, the Iranians, Iran's not going to disappear. And some terrible things will probably happen to Iran. But President Trump is in no mood to back off, and we have till 7:44 tomorrow night, Washington time, before he delivers on his promise there. And you can tell what kind of mood he's in. When someone told him that Mueller, the FBI director, had died, he said he was glad to hear it. So he's not in a real good mood.
No, but Iran knows, and this is where where some who have suggested that Iran is winning, they're pointing to the fact that Iran knows it's choking the world right now. So it's not just an attack on the US, it's an attack on the world. So how much pressure do you think the president might or could be feeling if oil remains elevated and stocks keep diving?
I think he's going to feel a lot of pressure at the polls in November, but I think he's beyond that, Pete. He knows he's going to lose in November. He's looking for the day after tomorrow, and he's probably come to the conclusion, if they don't finish off this regime, which, by the way, is based on martyrdom, this version of Shia Islam believes that being martyred is the greatest thing that can happen. So these guys don't mind going down in a blaze of glory. I'm sure President Trump is thinking about his place in the future. He wants to be known as the guy who won Iran. More importantly, Pete, he doesn't want to be the first president to lose a war. Now, we haven't won a lot of wars, but we haven't lost them either, as a matter of fact. So he's going to take a personal interest in this. But I think he's realized now that there's going to be a lot of economic unpleasantness in the United States. And, compared to dying, compared to flattening the place. And I just hope someone decides not just to flatten the place and say, look, this is the way we're going to have to go. But look, we have a war with Iran. It's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And I think this thing's going to have to play itself out a little bit. Yeah, they're going to bring down the electricity grid, and I think the Iranians will strike out and they'll hit people's desalination plants, oil and the rest of it. But the Gulf states and that part of the world has always been a very fragile reed. And so, to bring it down like this doesn't surprise me.
All right, Joe Siracusa, good to chat on a Monday morning. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.